Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurme Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Om Shri Swaminarayanaya Namo Namaha Om Shri Hari Krishna Maharajaya Namo Namaha Om Shri Ghansham Maharajaya Namo Namaha Om Shri Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Om Shri Lakshmi Narayanaya Namaha Shri Nar Narayanaya Namaha Shri Radha Krishnaya Namaha Om Sarvamangalamangale Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Welcome to SwaminarayanSpirituality.com. This is Sachin Karnik. We're continuing our exploration of the question of Maya as per asked by Shri Govardhan Bhai in the Garuda Pratham number 1 Vachanamrutam. To continue from yesterday, I want to explore today the significance and importance of why there are so many different spiritual organizations. Yesterday, I mentioned about the fact that we don't want to have limited beliefs or limitations in our mind in kind of fanatical type of approach to spirituality. That should never be there. This is called, in Gujarati, it is called Kattarvad or Gheta Vritti. Both concepts are there. Kattarvad means one who is just, really fanatical about their belief and doesn't want to learn from anybody else, doesn't want to listen to anybody else, only thinks that what they're believing is the right thing and nothing else is right. This is called Kattarvad. And Gheta Vritti means this sheep mentality. One sheep follows so many others, like that. Just because other people are going in some direction, follow that direction without giving any thought, any contemplation behind what we're doing. So these two are obstacles in the spiritual path. Nonetheless, to be very objective and clear, there is a great purpose to religious or spiritual organizations. One should not misunderstand, because sometimes in my own contemplations or recordings, it might seem like I have, tried to show the limitations of spiritual organizations, and there are some, no doubt, but there are also great important points in those organizations. First of all, the reason for having any spiritual organization is that it is a means to an end. It is not an end in itself. Just like a university is there, it's a mechanism to transmit knowledge. The goal is not for the student to stay in that university for their whole life. The goal is to graduate with the knowledge of a degree, certificates, and move on. But you love the university, respect it. Right? But you cannot say that knowledge is belonging only to that one university. No, that's not appropriate to say that. It's not correct. Similarly, in my humble opinion, Sachin's humble opinion, the spiritual truths in all the scriptures, all the paramparas, all the sages, all the scriptures, and in our case here, Swaminarayan spirituality, in our case here, the Vachanamrutam, this is for everybody. First of all, it's not restricted to any group, and the interpretations are definitely going to vary. People ask all the time, why are there 40 plus different organizations in the Swaminarayan Sampradaya today? There's more. I've even heard that there might be up to 80 or so, but I don't know if that's true or not. I know that there's at least 40. So why is that the case? I think there's three basic reasons why. One is that there is a difference in interpretation of the scriptures, and some group wants to follow a particular approach. It's well and good. That's beautiful. That's fine. Nothing, there's no problem in that. That's natural. So there's differences in interpretation. That's one reason. Another reason is that there are different guru paramparas. Like in the case of Shriji Maharaj, after Maharaj, there were many paramahansas. They all had their paramparas. Many of them had them. Today, many of those paramparas are still active today. That's also very natural. None of these reasons are cause for divisiveness, by the way. And then the third reason is that there is a difference in the sadhana. Some organizations want to emphasize seva more, some want to emphasize Jnana more, some emphasize strict adherence to the way Shriji Maharaj set up the sampradaya at that time. There's many, many ways of going about it. So different people at different times since the time of Shriji Maharaj have their own approaches to realizing that same Paramatma. And that's generally true throughout Sanatana Dharma. So having said that, the points to be avoided are dislike for each other. Disagreements can be there, but remember, disagreements are only there until the point one realizes the truth. When the truth is realized, in this case, Swarup, Bhagavan ka Swarup, then you begin to see that same Lord in everybody. Then it is alokik sthiti. It is alokik, meaning it is highly, highly transcendental. It is highly spiritual. So as we were saying yesterday, that bhajan of Muktanand Swami, Re Sham Tame Sachu Nanu Biju Sarve Dukhadayaka Janu. Right? Tamavina Sukha Sampata Kahave Teto Maha Dukha Upajave Ante Ema Kama Koi Nave. So Muktanand Swami there is mentioning very clearly that the real Ananda is in Bhagavan only, as I mentioned yesterday in somewhat detail. Now, along these lines, two things to keep in mind. If you, the listener, are part of a particular organization, that's your choice. That is well and good. And that is helping you moving ahead. You have particular guru, particular path, a particular community of people. It's very good. It's excellent. There's nothing wrong with it. The problems come about when there is fanaticism, kattarvad, and closed-mindedness and dislike for others. I think anybody can understand that is not appropriate at all on the spiritual path, right? So always good to learn from others, follow one's path, continue forward. But the goal is what? The goal is Nijatmanam Brahmarupam Dehatraya Vilakshanam Vibhavyatena Kartavya Bhaktihi Krishnasya Sarvada. Shikshapatri Shlok 116. Right? This is our goal. Those who are on the devotional path or who are devotees of Shriji Maharaj or in the Swaminarayan Sampradaya, or people who want to learn about the Sampradaya and learn about this path, this Shikshapatri Shlok 116 is the essence, it is the foundation. And it is the goal also. So having said that, we are examining Dhyan. Dhyan is meditation of Murti, of Bhagavan. During the time of Shriji Maharaj, those devotees who were present, they considered Maharaj himself as a manifestation of Parabrahma. And then there's a lot of history behind Shriji Maharaj's life, quite a bit. The name Swaminarayan was kind of attributed to him. That's a mantra Maharaj himself had given. So that mantra is a 6-syllable mantra. And then in time, Shriji Maharaj was called Bhagavan Swaminarayan. So that's how that attribution came. That should also be very clear. And in Garuda Pratham 1, when Maharaj is talking about the Murti, it means manifested form here. And then, of course, the different 8 forms of images that are constructed, paintings and through the Panchadhatu, then there's stone Murti, there is sand Murti, like that. So those are ways using the material in this world to construct an image, but then to see beyond the image into the Tattva, that Paramatma is present in this form for me right now. That is Murti Sadhana. So there's great power in that. But that's a matter of faith. If you want to try to approach God through Murti, it requires absolute faith to remove the substances that the image is made out of from the mind and to bring in the feeling that God is present. Bhagavan is present. Another interpretation of this word murti is of enlightened saints. Garuda Pratham 68, Vachanamrut. In that, Shriji Maharaj has mentioned that there's these 8 forms, and then the 9th is enlightened saint. Bhagavan na Santa. Great saints who are 100% gunatit, they are also called forms of God. So again, as I mentioned yesterday, see God in them, they are not God themselves. This is Swaminarayan Tattvagnan. That Parabrahma Tattva, Purushottama Tattva is one. Nobody is equal to that Purushottama Tattva. This is based on Vishishtadvaita Gnan. Right? So, when we are performing dhyan, there are several ways of going about this. And before I talk about that, I do want to tell you that the remaining 3 lines of that poem of Muktanand Swami, I will cover that in subsequent recordings. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the actual practical steps of dhyan today. How is it done? What are the steps? So first of all, let's just take the example of Ghanshyam Maharaj, Swaminarayan Bhagwan. Those who are devotees of Shriji Maharaj, almost everybody, if not everybody, has either an image or a murti or a painting or something that they have, some form of Maharaj in their home in the main mandir, because he's the Ishta Devata in the Swaminarayan Sampradaya. So if that's the case, then how to proceed? What to do? Well, there are several stages. The first stage is to regulate one's 24-hour cycle in the following way. To wake up before sunrise, and the guideline is given in Shikshapatri, I'm just summarizing it here. Wake up before sunrise, and then to do nitya puja, personal puja. That is usually done for about an hour, maybe 45 minutes, sometimes half an hour, depending on timing. And not to skip that even for one day. In fact, the devotees who have taken shelter of Maharaj, who are initiated, they have to wear kanthi, they put on tilak, things like that are done. The Guru has given the kanthi, or maybe Acharya has given the kanthi, somebody has given this kanthi. And then on that basis, the ashraya of Maharaj is taken at that point to follow this path. What is the path? The path is Ekantika Dharma, which we have already talked about, but which we will talk about. But these are the steps. So the Nitya Puja is done, then Arti is done, then normal daily activity is done. Those who are progressing further in devotion, before putting anything in their mouth, they offer it to God, they offer it to Maharaj, and there's a series of thal that is done in Gujarati. These are all beautiful rhymed verses of different food items that are offered to God. This is the idea. So that is done. And then in the evening, Arti is done. And then before going to bed, that Lila Chintamani, Cheshta is done. So if a person does this much, they come to a certain regulation in their life. There is a consistent connection with Bhagavan, with bhakti, with bhajans. And then most of the devotees, they go to some satsang program every Sunday, in some mandir somewhere. Right? So that's done. And then they contribute to the temples and whatnot. So this is all how this is all works generally. But these are all initial steps. But those who are having more time, who want to sit for dhyan with the murti, you can do that. But that takes time to develop. It doesn't happen just like that. It begins with bhajans. Maybe 10, 15, 20 bhajans are done. Then you can go into dhyan, because the mind has become absorbed slowly. And then the dhyan actually takes hold. In the dhyan, these mantras are done. So there's Janamangal Namavali, Sarvamangal Namavali. There's many mantras, Swaminarayan mantra. These mantras are done. And then that's how one establishes the further bhakti towards the murti. And in doing this, and in continuing along this path, there is a greater and greater relationship with Bhagavan. So there's more reading, more contemplating. The idea is to get to eventually Akhanda Vritti. But remember, when one is living in the throes of this worldly experience, you'll not be able to do like 8 hours of meditation. Even if you had the time, it's difficult to do that. So dhyan is done then in another way, listening to the scriptures, listening to bhajans. It's a type of dhyan also. Basically, it is to keep a connection going without any obstruction. Even to think about the glory of God, mahimanu vichar, ene dhyan kehvai. We'll be talking more about that later on. So these are all forms of dhyan. But as far as like getting lost in Bhagavan, that Ashtang Yoga type of dhyan, that is a little bit more advanced and more difficult also. But remember one thing, that in Gujarati there is the word prapti, attainment. Who have we obtained? Like if you have $1 billion check with you and you deposit that, all of your poverty goes away. Everything, you're a billionaire all of a sudden, overnight. Who has been obtained? Kaun mil gaya hai? Who we have with us? It's a matter of realization, recognition. If you have a check, $1 billion check in your hand, and you think of it just as a piece of paper, it's meaningless. So similarly, the murti is there in the home. But who is that? With the feeling that this is Bhagavan. And that is true for any murti in the Sanatan Dharma, Bhagavan Shankar, Bhagavan Krishna, Mataji, Devi. Whichever Ishta you may have is fine. Same idea is applied. Who is in front of me? And then on that basis, the bhakti is done with Shraddha, that Paramatma is actually standing in front of me, or with me all the time. And then with that, bhajan, kirtan, manan, chintan, this is done. And further linkage with Bhagavan is maintained, with God. Through the 9 forms of devotion, those 9 forms of devotion stabilize the mind, infuse the mind, infuse our heart with bhakti. And then the bhakta begins to get the rasa of bhakti. And then the meditation further on dhyan continues, on the murti continues. These are the steps. And then all the obstructions that come in between, that is maya. So if an obstruction is there, recognize that is obstruction, don't put any energy into that, deconnect with it and dive back into bhajan, kirtan, manan, chintan, Swaminarayan mantra, Krishna mantra, whichever mantra you're doing, dive back into that and keep your attention on the murti outside. So that focus on the murti outside is the beginning, and then you bring that inside of yourself. So the more we are connected with one murti, and of course Sadguru, the enlightened sages, we may have a picture of them also, and to touch their feet, and we can see God in them, that's fine, but they are not to be worshipped as God, as I mentioned yesterday. So whichever Ishta Devata or Avatar, Bhagavan Krishna ke Avatar, are worthy of dhyan, as per Shikshapatari. So then, and you can also say that yes, enlightened sage is also murti of God, but you're not doing dhyan of that sage, you can see Bhagavan in the sage and inculcate the qualities of the sage. Then there's no problem in upasana in doing that way also. Okay, so having said this, the goal is to have an unbroken link. This is Akhanda Vritti. So the first question about Akhanda Vritti, Shriji Maharaj raised. The second question Govardhan Bhai is raising about Maya. They are both related together. Maya is that which breaks Akhanda Vritti, or which prevents Akhanda Vritti from getting established. Akhanda Vritti is the whole ball game. Everything is that only. There isn't anything greater than that. Because once that is there, everything is revealed by Krupa. Jeev, Ishwar, Maya, Brahm, Parabrahm, Golok, Vaikunt, Brahmapur, all the abodes, all the transcendental reality, everything is opened up. So as we are going further in our Manan Chintan, in our contemplation, this notion that Bhagavan is the only reality, that only truth, only source of Ananda, and that is that He is real. Everything else is temporary and ultimately unreal. If that is maintained as a mumukshu, as a sadhak, as I mentioned yesterday, then the force of devotion increases substantially. Because that's what it's all about. It's about energy. It's Shakti. It's the internal Shakti that is given back to God. Whose energy is it? Bhagwan ki Shakti. It's been given to us. It's been given to us so we can give it back to God. It's an interesting notion. All the energy we have in our mind, in our brain, in our body, etc., has been given to us by grace so that we can give it back to God for enlightenment. That's what it all comes down to. In Gujarati we say, Antakaran samarpit thai jai. Man buddhi chit ahankar is placed at the feet of the God, is surrendered at the feet of the Ishta Devata. That Sharanagati and surrender and mumukshutvam and all, they all go together, and this is our greatest sadhana. This is what we don't do, what we don't want to do. The ego doesn't want to do this. It doesn't want to surrender itself at the feet of the Lord, because it wants to maintain different experiences of Prakriti that are enjoying, exciting, enthralling, and whatever it is, that are actually breaking the link with Bhagavan. But it wants those experiences. And then it gets lost in them and trapped in them, we've already understood that, hopefully, by now. So, to actually give the Antakarana to God is the height of spiritual practice. All practices aim to achieve this one state of surrender, one state of offering. What is the greatest that we can offer to the Lord? And that is our mind. And sometimes it is said, what's the one thing God doesn't have? He doesn't have our mind. He can take it by force, but that would be by force. So we have to offer it to Him. And if we offer it to Him, then see the magic that happens. That's amazing what happens at that point. Now there is a new world that opens up. Our usual mental world is transgressed. All of the disturbances, the problems, the difficulties, the worries, the tensions, the fears, our perception of others' perception of ourselves, and the desire to appear one way towards others and worrying about what people are thinking of us, and all kinds of things that our mind is clogged with. Bhagavan, by Krupa and through the Krupa of the sages, these cloggages are removed. These clots are removed. These are called granthis. It's all wiped out clean, and we become fearless. And in that fearlessness, bhakti continues. It's taking the shelter of the Lord completely. One is a child in front of the Lord. This is that Sharanagati, Ashraya we've been talking about. I know some of these ideas may seem like being repeated, but it needs to be repeated even million more times until it is fixed in our mind. It doesn't mean that Sachin spoke this once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, that this is clear. It is not clear. It has to be very clear, and then it gets internalized, where we do not hold on to the Antakarana. We bring God inside the Antakarana, as I was mentioning yesterday with regards to these beautiful lines of Muktanand Swami. That to internalize these fantastic words, that each and every point that is written here, Mari manuvrutti ataki, akhanda alaukika sukha, saru, joy, mana mohyu maru. Akhanda alaukika sukha. See every word. I'm going to expand this or expound upon this in subsequent recordings. I'm just mentioning just a primer here. Akhand means continuous. Alaukik. Alaukik means that which is beyond this worldly experience. Akhand means unbroken, without break. You see, the word is made out of 2 words, a plus khand. Khand here means breakage, khandan. And akhand means without break. Akhand, alaukika sukha saru. That is what we are wanting. And when we get glimpses of that, alaukik means transcendental joy. Once we get glimpses of this, then it will eventually grow through bhakti and upasana and sadhana and dhyan and manan chintan. One form or other, one way or another, we remain connected to higher contemplation, higher connection. And then those drops of nectar begin to open. Alaukik sukh, it begins to open. And as it begins to open, the bhakta experiences this akhanda alaukika sukh and lives in that divine state while living in the world, serving the world, doing one's duty in the world, but never getting stuck with any form of this world, any forms in the world. The forms in this world are stuck inside our mind. Maharaj is saying, bring that sanatana form, that akhanda divya vigraha form in the mind. That is real. Establish a connection with Bhagavan that way. And when we do that, all of these other forms, they are no longer going to be an affliction for us. All right, so these are some thoughts for today. I didn't want to make it too long. This is about 27 minutes here. We will continue along these lines further. I want to spend some more time in doing some more background research on some of these poems and other things. There's a lot more to cover with regards to Sankhya Vichar and all that, and that'll connect into Dhyan. But this is the basic idea, that we connect with the saintliness of the sages and connect our mind in Upasana with Bhagavan. These are just the two basic points. In Swaminarayan satsang it is said, Brahma Rup Thaine Parabrahmani Bhakti Karvi, Akshar Rup Thaine Purushottamne Bhakti Upasana Karvi. Brahma Bhutaha Prasannatma. The Gita is teaching this. So that state of Brahman, that we are that. And then when that, we are worshipping Parabrahma, Paramatma. That is called Brahma Swarupini Bhakti, which I have mentioned before, which we have talked about before. Right, so this is just a brief talk for today. Some contemplation, some clarifications, etc. Please keep in mind that the world of Prakriti is diverse. Diversity is part of life. But the one without a second, that is Bhagavan, and only one Tattva, one Parabrahma Tattva exists everywhere, in everyone. God is not two, God is only one. With that idea, with that understanding, I want to offer my prayers to all the great sages and saints and to Bhagavan for blessings and to continue this journey for further exposition one day at a time. Hari Om Tat Sat, Shri Gurubhyo Namah, Jai Shri Swaminarayan.